My fellow Flames of Amethyst, I can honestly say, in my opinion, 2.4 and Septimont is one of, if not my personal favourite place and patch in the history of Wuthering Waves. I enjoyed near enough everything this patch had to offer. I enjoyed the story, I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed Septimont as an area, and we're going to be discussing it today. So if you enjoyed this discussion video today, hit that like, comment and subscribe, and let me know down below in the comments what you yourself think of Septimont, what you yourself think of 2.4, about the story, about the characters. Do you think it was a success? Do you think it was a bad patch for whatever reason? I don't think near enough anyone thinks Septimont and 2.4 was a bad patch at all. I think if anything, the majority of the community does believe that 2.4 and Septimont was a huge success for Wuthering Waves and a very good patch as a whole, and we're going to be talking about it today. So without further ado, let's get into this. First things first, let's talk about Septimont as a place, and the city and the region, or the place of glory. This was one of my favorite places ever to explore in Wuthering Waves, next to Mount Firmament. Those who don't know, Mount Firmament was my personal favorite place in Huanglong, and I believe is still my favorite place to explore in Wuthering Waves. I loved everything about Mount Firmament. I loved the snowy peaks, I loved the story around it, I loved the lore about the time manipulation and how the people that lived in Mount Firmament may be thousands of years old because time moves differently there compared to the rest of the regions. And I loved Septimont so much, one, because it's set in ancient Greece or Sparta, which is one of my favorite places in mythology. I like the fact that they reference Greek gods, and and other legends like Leonidas from the movie 300 and the legend of Leonidas as well. They reference other gods like Hercules, but they change his name from Hercules to Spercules or Turcules, whatever they renamed him to, and they just referenced so many different things and so many pop culture references and so many just things in general. They even have a Yu-Gi-Oh game mode, like a TFT Yu-Gi-Oh TCG / not TCG strategy game mode that is connected to the lore of Septimont. Since it is the City of Glory, this is like the contest of champions. Like, you've got the Great Aegon, which is the gladiator hand-to-hand combat, fight to the finish kind of thing in the culture of Septimont, but then you've also got the strategy side of it, which is you collect echoes and you create a battlefield where you summon your monsters and you battle against other like Septimont trainers or Septimont duelists or whatever you want to call them. And the fact that you can battle your monsters like duel monsters and something like that is really cool to me. I think it's one of the best game modes they've ever added. This makes any other TCG in any other gacha game look doggy doo-doo. That's right, I said it. Genshin's TCG is doggy doo-doo compared to this. This game mode gives me an element of Gwent mixed with Yu-Gi-Oh, in my personal opinion. Now, people are going to say it's TFT. I completely understand. It does look very TFT, especially when the monsters are on the battlefield. But for me personally, growing up with The Witcher and growing up with Yu-Gi-Oh, I never really played TFT, so for me specifically, it is the card distribution and the card summoning way of Gwent, and the actual monsters fighting reminds me of how dual monsters fight in Yu-Gi-Oh. Everything else about Septimont is amazing. The city feels alive. I like the ad revenue that you get for the gladiators like Lupa, the fact that she's promoting energy drinks, which is really cool. Overall, the place of Septimont and the City of Glory itself feels so alive. It feels so alive. The characters, the new cast of characters introduced in Septimont is amazing. The lore around them is amazing. The fact that you've got the lioness and they've got their own deity, because the Septimontians don't serve or don't believe in the Sentinel and the Thronodian. They have their own religion, or they have their own sort of they have their own outlook on life, and they have their own philosophy compared to the rest of the regions in Solaris 3, where other regions believe in the Sentinel and believe in the Thronodian and the good versus the evil. These guys believe in the whole path to glory, and the strongest warrior survives, and they have their deity. It's the 4-cost echo. They call it the lioness. I can't actually remember the name of who she is, but they have their own deity that appears in the final stages of the Great Aegon, and only in the final stages of the Great Aegon, and that is their deity. That is their quote-unquote god, and that god is a warrior of glory, a gladiator, sort of half horse, half sphinx, half human thing. It's really cool. So everything about Septimont, the philosophy, the legends around Septimont, the way the people act, what people believe in, the characters really stuck out for me, and I cannot wait to hopefully explore more about the lore of Septimont. Though I believe we're done with Septimont with the 2.4 patch, I believe Septimont was a one and done patch. I think 2.5 might be a filler patch for Frolova. We'll get more lore around the Fractidus as the Fractidus, but I don't think we're going to get a main story quest in 2.5. I think that's what we got in this patch, which is completely fine. I do not care about that at all. I'm very happy with how the story played out, which leads me on to the story. It was amazing. Pure cinema, peak cinema, as the community always says, because every single story that Kuro Games release in Wuthering Waves is a banger. It is good. The writing is very impressive. The writing is very immersive. The characters you connect to most of the time. And everything that they do in their stories makes you feel a certain way. This story was so good, and they really explained it, and the payoff was so worth it. I think it's one of my favorite stories. I do believe it's one of my favorite stories in all of Wuthering Waves. The Septimont arc was chef's kiss. Let me know down below in the comments if you do believe the same. Everything about it, I was hooked from start to finish. The fact that we don't know which reality was the real reality, because we met Lupa and then we find out there's an alternate reality where Lupa is injured and wandering Septimont, but it's like a Septimont that's in ruin and deserted and there's no one in the city. For some reason Lupa is injured, dying of an illness or something like that. She's become corrupted to the point where a lot of the community thought Lupa was going to die. A lot of the community thought Lupa was going to be introduced and then also get killed off at the end of the story. I see a lot of people say this. Even Hexjuice, a renowned content creator who made her re-debut, she came back to content creation because of this character, thought Lupa was gonna die because of which reality is the real one. Which timeline are we in? And we find out later on, spoilers by the way, if you don't want spoilers, click off the video right now. Spoilers, Cristoforo's power is to rewrite reality to his own will. He can bend the laws of nature to his will with the script, with his book. That's his resonability. He is a very, very powerful resonator and a very powerful member of the Fractidus. And we also find out that everything that was been going on in the Septimont arc is his doing. Everything that's been going on in the Septimont arc is his doing. The reason why everything is kicking off, the reason why Lupa's having her mental spirals, the reason why we think there's two realities, the reason why we can never find Cartethia in the story is because she's trapped in an alternate reality that Cristoforo created. And it's now up to Cartethia to keep Cristoforo busy in that alternate reality to stop him from coming over to the one that we're in. That way, we can succeed in the story. They explain it in such a magnificent way that the payoff was so good. There was not an ounce of yap in this patch. Not an ounce of yap. Everything was boom, 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 boom. Probably one of the best paced stories ever. I'm not going to lie to you. I think this story is the best paced story they've ever released. The Septimont arc is the best paced story ever. 2.0 was very, 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 very good. But again, I saw a lot of people say that one of the acts in 2.0 was a little bit yappy and more lore heavy and a little bit slower. They told the lore in Septimont so well and so quickly and so efficiently that it didn't feel like it was dragging at all. It didn't feel like it was dragging at all. If anything, it felt like it was done in such a great way that I was like this whole time. I was like this. I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? I'm so immersed. I need to know what's going on. I need to know what's going on. And honestly, I'm so happy. I'm so happy that they ripped the story and presented the story in this way, because they showed everything. It wasn't it wasn't a black screen with white writing or a white screen with black writing. It was, they showed off everything the story had to offer. Everything they wanted to tell you, they told in a very engaging way, and I'm very happy. Also, another spoiler by the way, the Thronodian is still alive. The Thronodian is still alive. We find out that the gladiator that was Mia is the sibling of Cartethia, Cartethia's sister. We find out that she is Cartethia's sister because she was the first resonator that the Thronodian basically created But that was a failed experiment. Mia was a failed subject of the Thronodian because the Thronodian wanted to basically go to Septimont, corrupt Septimont, invade Septimont using Mia as the creation, as basically the catalyst, as the protagonist, as they name in the story. They call them the protagonists, and we find out that the Thronodian created Mia to do all kinds of unspeakable things. Mia killed herself in order to stop the Thronodian from succeeding. Then the Thronodian created Kartithia, which is another really good lore drop. So the fact that the Thronodian created multiple resonators, not just one, but multiple, including Mia and Kartithia, is a huge lore drop, because that also opens up a whole lot more questions of what are the powers of the Thronodians? What can they do? Are they capable of creating more things? Is the world we're in an illusion? Which resonators are real and which ones were created by the Thronodians? We don't know. It opens up a lot of doors and opens a lot of questions for us to ask and to be answered, but in a good way, because we have come to a conclusion, but then it's also another chapter has sort of like opened its page. So I'm very intrigued in seeing what that happens. But the reason why the Thronodian is still alive is because a part of the Thronodian lives in Mia, and the corpse of Mia was recovered by the Fractidus, and they imbued Mia's corpse with enough energy for that part of the Thronodian to be reawakened, which is the reason why Leviathan technically was still alive, technically isn't. Because the main source of the Thronodian's power we did destroy and vanquish in 2.2, but in this patch, a deceased, or should I say dormant version, or a dormant aspect of the Thronodian, which was sealed off due to Mia's sacrifice, gets reawakened, which enables the Leviathan to come back. Which is, again, another very, very cool aspect of the story. Scar does come back at the end of the story, though I don't think they're going to explain the reason why Scar comes back yet. Because there's a dialogue option where we can actually ask Kartithia who she met and who she's been fighting against, and she labels Frolova, she labels Cristoforo, and then she says there was a tall man covered in scars, and we realize that is Scar, but he should be in prison. So either we're going to go back to Huanglong very, very soon, and Huanglong's either going to be in ruin, or there was a jailbreak, or maybe we're going to see some sort of flashbacks, we don't know, but Scar has returned. The story as a whole is one of my favorites in all of Wuthering Waves. I think the character of Lupa, it was basically Lupa's story. The character of Lupa was explained and portrayed in such a well written and well shown way in the story of Septimont. This story wasn't about us per se, but about Lupa. It was Lupa's story from start to finish. From the moment we got to Septimont to the moment we've just finished part 2 of the Septimont arc story, it was Lupa's story. There's even an aspect of the story where basically in the second half of the chapter, where Rover for the first 25 minutes and the last hour and 10 to 15 minutes, it was all Lupa. We were only ever playing as Lupa. It was Lupa's story. And I think it was a perfect way to show the character of Lupa, a perfect way to show who Lupa is as a character. And I think they've outdone themselves. Kuro Games outdid themselves because this is a new style of storytelling they've never done before. You know, we've played as other characters in domains and played as other characters temporarily, but this is the first time in an actual story where Rover isn't around at all. It's all Lupa. Near enough, it's all Lupa. And I'm here for it. I am here for it. I loved it. I think this is the perfect way to tell a story around the character, and I hope they do more of it in the future. Maybe they'll do the same for Frolova. Maybe they'll do the same for Augusta. Maybe they'll do the same for Kuai Yuan. I don't know. Maybe not for a while, but I think it's very, very good. Kartithia's role in the story was very minor, but then again, her major part in the story was in 2.2. We got a lot of Kartithia in 2.2. We got a little bit more in 2.4, though it was mainly, she was the supporting role for Lupa. Lupa was the main protagonist, and then Kartithia was a strong supporting role for Lupa. You know, she had her moments. There's a few cutscenes in this story that made me go, ooh, buddy. Speaking of, their animations have increased and improved Kuro Games is putting a lot of money and a lot of resources into their animations and cutscenes, and I am here for it because they have done them so well. They have done them so well. They've put money into their music, they've put money into the writing, they've put money into the animations. Everything Kuro Games are doing, every bit of profit, this is how I feel as a player and as a part of the community, every bit of profit they earn, they are putting back into the game. Or most of it anyway. And it's such a breath of fresh air because they're giving the players exactly what they want. They're giving the players exactly what we needed, and they're doing it in a way which is very satisfying. Now, it's not to say that they've not had fuck ups. 2.3, in my opinion, was a shamble, but 2.4 is in my opinion, 2.4 was the anniversary patch. Was the definitive anniversary patch. This felt like an anniversary patch. This to me was the year anniversary. The moment that sparks a year since Wuthering Waves started, for me. Now, going into the events and the game modes that we've had, I've spoken a little bit about the TCG, which I thought was a very, very good addition. We've had other reoccurring events. We've had other events in regards to we've had the photography event where you basically explore Septimont and find different aspects of the photography, the photographs, which tells you a little bit of lore about Septimont. They've returned a few of the old events. There was one about the tether system where you go in and you fight bosses, and it was really fun game mode. They've returned a few of those game modes as well. There's other events and game modes coming up very, very soon as well. I just think the quality of life stuff that they've implemented in here was very, very good. I think they've really gone in the right direction. I think Wuthering Waves is continuing to evolve and continuing to elevate their game and continuing to prove to us that they do care about the player base and that they do care about our feedback and that they are going to continue to do so. I love Septimont. I think Septimont was a solid 9 out of 10. It was a 9 out of 10 patch. It was a 9 out of 10 update. Septimont as a place, the lore around it was superb. The echoes are so fun to use. The fact that we've got multiple different sonata effects, amazing. Both of the two characters, Cartethia and Lupa, both amazing written characters and both amazing characters and fun characters to play. Before you summon for Lupa, play through the story because you get to use Lupa for a good chunk of it. So if you like her playstyle after you finish the story, that's when I would make my definitive decision to summon for Lupa. I made my decision after completing the story to summon for Lupa. I'm not going to say whether I was successful in summoning for Lupa because I don't know if that summoning session or that summoning video is out before or after this is out. But just in case, I don't know whether I've got Lupa yet. But I have decided I am going to be summoning for Lupa. So I hope I bring her home. I'm not going to S1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 her, and I'm not going to be going for her weapon because of lack of resources, but I am going to risk my 50-50 on Lupa in hopes that I do bring her home. And here's hoping that I do. But all I'm going to say as my final thoughts, I didn't cover every nook and cranny of this patch, but I wanted to touch on the things I love so much about it, which is the story, the characters, the world, the game mode of the TCG Yu-Gi-Oh! Gwent mode, everything about it. The Great Aegon, that's what I wanted to... One of my final thoughts was the Great Aegon. The Great Aegon is a bridge to potential PvP. I don't want PvP, but there's a potential chance that this could be the bridging gap between PvE and PvP. Either the Great Aegon or a more likelihood chance is they will use the new TCG mode as the PvP mode. It is the perfect opportunity for Wuthering Waves to incorporate PvP into their game. Why? Because it's a very well built game. Now there's meta decks, absolutely. I can confirm right now there are meta decks within the TCG mode of this game, within the strategy mode of Wuthering Waves. But with a few balancing patches, with a few different decks and a few different things you can do, this could be a very good PvP mode. This could be a very good PvP mode that I think thousands of people will enjoy, hundreds of thousands of people will enjoy. And I think that is what they're doing. I think this is a tester to see what the mode is like. I think they'll continue it in other regions in the future, and I think they'll add more cards and more decks, and then what they'll do is they'll go, we're finally going to add a PvP mode to the TCG. And I think that would be a great way to do it. Now, the Great Aegon mode as a PvP mode would be great, but I do think, depending on S1, 2, 3, unless they do S0 characters versus S0 characters, and it's a 2v2 with both of you having an echo of your choice, which would be really, really fun, because that's what the Great Aegon is. You and another warrior have their own echoes beside them, and they fight against one another. It's really, really cool. But I don't know if it would work as a PvP, but hey, who knows? Who knows? Anything's possible. Anything's possible. But I'm going to give the patch a solid 9 out of 10. I don't want to give it a 10 out of 10. No, I want to give it a 10 out of 10, but I think the more accurate and fair choice and fair score would be 9 out of 10. This patch gave me an element of happiness, gave me an element of satisfaction, and it gives me hope for the future of Wuthering Waves. All of the other characters that were introduced, Augusta was introduced, Yuno was introduced. All of these characters had their spotlight shine on them, had a little bit of ray of sunshine, a little ray of spotlight on them. They were really, really cool. It gives us a little glimpse into what kind of character they're going to be, and I'm excited for the future. We've also got we've got a tease that we're going back to Honglong soon as well, because there's a character, I can't remember her name, but she is the disciple and the student of Kuai Yuan. Kuai Yuan is Jing Yuan's, or no, not, is it Jing Yuan? Or Jian Xin? Is it Jian Xing who's the Kung Fu master in Honglong? The Yin and Yang girl? I think it's Jian Xing. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I believe Kuai Yuan is her master. And I believe that patch is going to be the bridge between Renacita and Honglong, and us going back to Honglong. But yeah, a solid 9 out of 10 patch. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. Let me know down below in the comments what you thought of Septimont. Let me know if you want more talking videos and more talking sessions like this. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. Take it easy and have a good rest of your day.